So hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. This week you join me on the banks of the River Weaver and we're in search of silvers on the feeder and on the stick float. You do join me on a dull, overcast day on the bank. The rain's coming down and it is quite a miserable day, but I am one happy angler. Today we're doing one of the most exciting things that I do in my fishing, and that is we're on a brand new stretch of river, unknown, never fished it before, and I'm super excited to see what it holds. The species that it holds and the quantity is unknown, and I'm super excited to find out. There is a car park on the loch. Me and Gary have teamed up today to reduce the amount of cars. So that's the path that you come down that you just seen on the blog. And if I pan round, you can see there, nice and comfortable, set up. The river is flowing today and it has got a bit of colour. In my experience, that's always been a good thing. There's been plenty of fish bubbling around the area, one or two fish topping. So there's definitely fish in the area. So like with all brand new stretches of river that's not been touched, access past these pegs is a bit wild, and it's going to take time for anglers to put pegs in, but I'm sure over time, you know, there'll be plenty of pegs on this stretch. The signs of fish are everywhere. Down on the peg, and today is very much an exploratory session. I don't know what we're going to catch, but I'm going to try and learn as much as I can. So with that, I've set up a feeder rod. I've got my Corum opportunistic quiver with the 1 ounce tip. I've got a running loop on which I've got a feeder, and on the end I've got a short hook link, and that's down to a size 12 hook, nice and positive, targeting any better fish. On the inside line we're going to target on the stick float, and I've got my 13-foot Corum glide. I've got a 0.8 Corum glide float and strung out shotting pattern, basically to catch anything that swims underneath my feet. First thing I did when I arrived on the peg was mix the ground bait, and I've got plenty there today, whether I want to ball it in under my feet or be positive on the ground bait feeder. In there I've got the ground up little gem pellets and ground bait. I've got some of the supercharged black and some brown crumb, and I've mixed in some of the bread as well, the poly crumb in there as well, just to bulk it out. So the side tray, you've got some of the ground bait there, and what I'm going to do is periodically put the ground bait in there, and then I can control what I'm putting through the feeder in here. I have put out 10 ground bait fulls at the start when I set up and let it settle. We've got plenty of white maggot for that inside line, some of the little gem pellet, we've got some sweet corn, and then we've got some worms for the hook as well. Looking at the swim, there's a gap in the trees over there and I've clipped up in line with it. We're fishing pretty much down the middle where they're seeing some bubbles, but we are clipped up. The other line is literally rod tip. It's about 6 or 7 foot deep. There's a lovely dark patch here that the float can go over, and I'm just going to feed maggot here and run over the top. The plan is to let that settle out there a little bit. I'm going to start on the stick float. So I'm just going to start off on the stick float, nice and close in, just rod tip, feeding maggots in front of me, running that float through. The maggots are going to move through today because the river is pulling. There's another fish just top down there as well, so there's definitely fish in the area. It's just going to take a bit of time to draw them in. And it's a little roach to start off with. Feeding about 10 maggots. I don't want to feed too many that they come up in the water. And that's not what we want. That is not what we want, a snag. Oh, that is an absolute disaster. Further out on this next one, just try and avoid that snag. There we go, there's another one. Just again, only a small fish, but where there's small, there's always bigger. Bubbles before were all over the place, but now they are more condensed on where I put that ground bait. You can see how much it's flowing today, and the fact that the bites are coming down there. You know, that's where the maggots are naturally probably hitting the bottom. And what a little find this has turned out to be. You know I love me stick float fishing. It's a bite chuck for these little roach and chublets underneath my feet. Today is all about getting an insight into the area, and there's certainly a lot of chublet here. There's got to be mum and dad, hasn't there? So we are targeting them better quality fish out there. So nice big piece of worm. Got a bit of maggot in the ground bait as well, some pellets, and yeah, bit of corn. And the beauty of it, while we're fishing out there, we can just keep putting some maggots on this inside line. Been getting plenty of knocks on them first 2 casts out to the middle, so there's definitely fish out there. On the 4th cast, That feeder's gone round on the worm. Put a bit of corn on with it as well. And yeah, like I said before, the quality fish on the weaver normally are bream. So as a kid, we used to watch Matt Hayes all the time with my dad, and he always used to say that fish has probably never been caught before. And my dad used to hate it. But I'm sorry, Dad, there's a very good chance it could be true in this occasion. The beauty of river bream, they're a bit like dace. Where there's one, there's always more. Again, one of those beautiful skimmers, and if you get them going, you'll have a decent net at the end. And the key to any type of feeder fishing, you've got to be accurate. Clipped up, aiming with the gap. You're kind of going in the same area every time, as long as you cast in a straight line. Still feeding this inside line, but just going to concentrate on the tip for the bit. It's quite clear there is some quality out there. And it's bubbling like a witch's cauldron out there, if you can see on the video. And again, it's gone round with one of these lovely skimmers. There's definitely one or two fish out there. You can just see how them bubbles from this morning are just all concentrated in one area. And there we go. The best one so far. I think it's number 3 or 4. But excellent quality. There's definitely one or two out there now. Found that ground bait. And by just keeping on feeding that stick float line, you know you attract better quality fish, and them balls of ground bait attracted a skimmer. And it's always great when you start off catching them small ones and you see the swim develop. Just alternating between the feeder and the sticky, and I did say some better quality ones might arrive under your feet if you're stuck at it. On the stick float, that was a great battle right underneath the rod tip. Just trying to there get the tip going round, and the feeder wouldn't settle, and then it all became apparent why the feeder wasn't settling. Mr. Bream instantly on that bait. And it literally is a bite of chuck down the middle for these. The feeder's hitting the bottom, tap tap, and it's wrapping round. So as you've just seen then, it's going excellent. Plenty of bites on the feeder. We've had 1 or 2 on the float as well, haven't we, down here? And just been putting the odd ball of ground bait in. What a lovely dilemma we've got. We've got fish bubbling out there, and then we've got fish bubbling all down this line here. One thing you've got to do is keep the food going in, regular casting, and each batch that I make up of this ground bait loaded with them hinders pellets and the corn and maggot. You've got to keep the food going in, or as quick as they've arrived, they'll disappear. So when it comes to ground bait, I do get a few questions on the channel about, you know, how do you know when it's right? How do you mix it right? It's different on every session, and that's why I mix it on the bank so you can make it how you want it. But a couple of hard, fast rules I stick by is, number 1, it's kind of ready when you can mix it around the bowl and the bowl is kind of clean at the bottom and it's not sticking. When there's not a lot of it staying on your hands like that, and if you make it into a ball like that, it breaks back up into ground bait again. And it is really a dilemma of which one to go for, the feeder or the float, because they are literally now on both. And it's scary the damage you could do if you started getting them rod tip, because you'd certainly be catching them quicker than on the feeder. So I hope you have enjoyed the blog to this point. If you have, please leave it a like and subscribe to the channel. It'd be much appreciated. And share the video if you can. There isn't really much more on the session I can share tactics wise than what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to play some footage of anything I catch towards the end of the video, and I'll see it all at the end. So as you can see there, an excellent day's fishing and plenty of bream, plenty of bites. Like I say, we lifted the net up in the edge and yeah, plenty of bites there on the feeder and on the sticky underneath my feet. If you have enjoyed this week's blog, please leave the video a like, subscribe to the channel. All that remains is to wish you all tight lines in your own fishing, and we'll catch you all next week.